If someone in your life has chronic pain, back pain, migraines, fibromyalgia, arthritis, anything long term, new research suggests that there's a good chance they're also fighting anxiety or depression, and an even better chance that nobody has screened them for it. A massive new study just mapped exactly where that system breaks down. So today, we're going to get nerdy about it.
Welcome to Nerdy Psychology. Break it down with a little curiosity. Don't be curious, stay kind. Keep your mind nerdy.
Hi, psychology nerds. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Angel, a licensed mental health practitioner, and this is Nerdy Psychology, where we break down human behavior in a nerdy, science-based way with practical tools that you could actually use. Around here, we don't just read headlines, we learn how to think about them. Today's episode is part of our Nerdy Psychology in the News series, where we take fresh psychology research and then translate it into plain English. And we're looking at a large national study on chronic pain and mental health. And what you'll learn is what happened, what the researchers found, what the research doesn't tell us, my nerdy take, what this means for you, and 3 practical tools that you could use immediately. Be sure to stick around for the end. The biggest takeaway isn't the statistics itself. It's one sentence that can change what happens at your next doctor visit. Before we dive into today's research, let's first talk about, what chronic pain actually is. Acute pain is your body's alarm system. It's the pain that you would feel if you sprained your ankle or touched a hot stove or had surgery. It serves as an important purpose by warning you that something is wrong and encouraging you to protect that injured area while it heals. Chronic pain is completely different. It generally lasts for 3 months or longer, even years, and may continue even after the original injury has healed, or sometimes even when there isn't a clear ongoing cause for the pain. Now, here's something that's really important. Chronic pain is not all in your head. The pain people experience is real. What we do know, however, is that pain isn't created by just one body part. Your brain, your spinal cord, your nervous system, your immune system, your emotions, your thoughts, your life experiences are constantly communicating with one another to shape how pain is experienced. In other words, pain isn't simply signal traveling from your body to your brain. It's an experience that your brain interprets using information from a variety of resources. And understanding that doesn't make pain any less real. It simply helps us understand why pain can be so complex and why there are multiple ways we can help to reduce suffering. One thing I've noticed over and over in my work as a therapist is that chronic pain rarely stays confined to one part of a person's life. It can begin as this physical condition. Over time, it reaches into nearly every corner of daily living. Sleep becomes disrupted, then making it harder to think and to regulate emotions. Work responsibilities become more challenging as concentration and energy decline. Relationships can suffer as people cancel plans or withdraw from activities that they once enjoyed, or feeling misunderstood by the people around them. And even a person's sense of identity can begin to change from seeing themselves as this active, independent, capable person to an individual who is dependent on others for things that they once could do by themselves, which often leads them to wonder who they are now that the pain has become a part of their everyday life. Eventually, many people stop asking, how do I fix this pain? And they begin asking a much heavier question. Is this just my life now? That loss of hope and certainty about the future is an emotional burden that deserves just as much attention as the physical symptoms themselves. And that's exactly why mental health practitioners care about chronic pain. It's not because we think the pain is psychological, it's because chronic pain affects the whole person. And researchers are increasingly recognizing that treating pain means understanding the connection between the body, the brain, and the emotional well-being. And that's exactly what the study we're looking at today set out to examine. So what happened? This study was published in the 2024 journal called Pain, one of the leading peer-reviewed journals in pain research. And it's been circulating because it puts a hard number on something, well, that clinicians have suspected for years, that chronic pain and mental health are far more tangled together than our healthcare treats them. It matters because chronic pain affects a huge share of U.S. adults, and if mental health care isn't reaching them effectively, that's a gap worth understanding clearly. So what the research found. Researchers used data from the National Health Interview Survey. It's a large, nationally representative U.S. health survey that draws on responses from close to about 32,000 adults. And they built what's called this cascade of care, tracking people step by step from having a mental health need to accessing treatment to whether that treatment actually resolved their symptoms. And here's what they found at each stage. About 43% of adults with chronic pain had mental health need, compared to 17% of adults without chronic pain, roughly 2.5 times higher. And among people who had mental health need, those with chronic pain were less likely to receive treatment than people whose only issue was the mental health need of anxiety or depression. And even when they did get treatment, people with chronic pain were more likely to still screen positive for unremitted anxiety or depression afterwards, meaning the treatment was less likely to resolve their symptoms. So putting this all together, about 44% of people with a mental health need and chronic pain ended up treated and symptom-free, compared to about 71% of people with a mental health need alone. And in raw numbers, people with chronic pain make up a lot of U.S. adults with clinically significant anxiety or depression. It's not just a small subgroup. So what this research doesn't tell us. Every good study has limitations, and not because it's bad science, but because, well, that's how science works. Understanding those limitations helps us know how confidently we can be to apply these findings. And a few things were worth naming here. One limitation is this is a cross-sectional data, meaning it captured a snapshot in time across many people, not the same individuals followed over months or years. And that means we can see the size of the gap clearly, but we can't map exactly how someone's pain and mood interacted over the course of their life. Also, correlation is not causation, and this study shows that chronic pain and unmet mental health needs travel together and that treatment is less effective for this group. But what it doesn't tell us is the precise mechanisms. Is it under-screening by providers? Is it stigma? Is it treatments that's not designed for pain in mind? Is it fragmented care between specialists? Likely some mix of all of these, but the study alone doesn't isolate which factors matter most. It relied on self-report measures, and mental health need and symptom status were captured through survey responses and not structured clinical interviews for every participant. A self-report is a well-validated approach in large surveys like this, but it's still a different tool than the in-depth clinical assessment. Treatment is broad. The study can tell us whether someone received treatment, but not the type, the quality, or the fit of treatment. A mismatch that matters a lot in something as individualized as chronic pain and mental health. None of this weakens the core findings. It just tells us where our edges of confidence are. Now we've come to my favorite part, the nerdy research meter. Remember, this is not a report card for the researchers. Every good study adds something valuable to our understanding, and the nerdy research meter simply helps us think about how confident we can be to apply these findings on the evidence that we have today. If you want to know what the rating scale is, it'll be in the description below. But for this research, I rated it as good, promising evidence. This study drew on a large, nationally representative sample that lands in a highly respected quality journal, and that's a real strength. And it doesn't just stand alone. It fits into this growing, consistent body of research on pain and mood connection, including work on shared neurobiological pathways and the well-documented bi-directional relationship between chronic pain and depression. The evidence is consistent and compelling, but it's still developing into a complete causal picture. Science isn't about finding absolute certainty. It's about becoming more confident as evidence grows. And every study adds another piece to a much larger puzzle. So my nerdy take, research tells us what was found. Psychology helps us understand what it means and how to use it wisely. Clinically, this tracks with what I see constantly. Pain and mood aren't sequential. Pain doesn't just cause sadness that resolves once the pain is managed. They feed each other in this loop. Pain limits activity. Limited activity increases isolation and rumination. That emotional load amplifies pain perceptions, and it goes around and around and around. And the most common misunderstanding I encounter is treating this as this either or. It's either a pain problem or a mental health problem. And whichever specialist you happen to see treats their half and then refers you out or doesn't refer you out for the rest. The research puts hard numbers on how often that handoff is simply not happening. And I want to be careful not to overstate this. The findings aren't that doctors don't care or the system is broken beyond repair. It's more precise than that. It's that screening and integration aren't consistently built into pain care pathways. And it's fixable. It's a structural gap, not a character flaw in our providers. So what does this mean for you? I would like to step away from research for just a minute and share something from both my personal experience living with chronic pain and from working with many clients who live with it every day. One of the best ways I can describe chronic pain is to imagine your brain as a computer. Most people start their day with a few tabs open, maybe work or family or dinner plans or remembering to pick up something from the grocery store. But when you live with chronic pain, it's like 7 of those tabs are permanently dedicated to pain. They're always open. You don't necessarily notice each one every second because your brain learns to adapt and to function around that constant input, but they're running in the background, quietly consuming your mental and emotional bandwidth. And that leaves only 1, 2, if you're lucky, maybe 3 tabs for everything else that life throws at you. So when someone with chronic pain forgets something or seems mentally exhausted or says, I just can't handle one more thing today, it isn't because they're lazy or unmotivated. They're already running a computer that's operating near capacity. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that you can't manage chronic pain the same way you manage life when you're healthy. You have to become much more intentional with your time and your energy. Prioritizing what truly matters, planning your day around your highest energy periods, building in rest before you're completely depleted, and giving yourself permission to let some things wait aren't signs of giving up. They're strategies for protecting the limited bandwidth you have. And in many ways, living well with chronic pain isn't just about managing the pain itself. It's about managing your mental and emotional energies. If you live with chronic pain, this data is not a reason to panic. It's validation. If you've ever felt like your emotional health got quietly deprioritized while your pain was being managed, you're not imagining it. It shows up in the numbers. And as personal as that experience is, it also helps to explain why the findings of today's study are so important. Researchers found that people living with chronic pain aren't just carrying the burden of persistent physical symptoms. They're also experiencing significant mental health needs that too often go unrecognized or untreated. So what can you do about it? Ask for the screening tools directly. As promised, the one sentence that can change what happens at your next doctor visit At your next pain-related or primary appointment, say, can we do a quick depression and anxiety screen? These take under 5 minutes, and you are allowed to request one, even if it's not offered. Name the loop out loud. Tell your provider explicitly. My pain gets worse when I'm anxious, and my mood drops when my pain flares. Those sentences reframe how your case is treated from 2 separate issues into one connected picture. And track both of them together. Keeping a simple daily log of a 1 to 10, logging your pain levels and your mood levels, can give your provider pattern data that most patients never bring in. And that pattern data changes treatment decisions. This episode is sponsored by my workbook, Your Next Chapter. It's clinician developed, judgment free, designed to help you reflect on your own patterns, build coping skills, strengthen your boundaries, and navigate exactly the kind of overlapping physical and emotional challenges we talked about today. If you're interested, the link is in the description below. Has a provider ever treated your physical pain and your emotional health as 2 completely separate conversations? What happened when you try to connect the dots for them? If this episode gave you language you didn't have before, I would love it if you would like and subscribe and share this video with someone who might be navigating this exact gap right now. It might be the nudge they needed to ask for those screening tools. Chronic pain and unmet mental health, they travel together far more often than our healthcare system currently accounts for. And closing that gap often starts with one direct question at your next appointment. As always, the research is linked in the description below if you're interested in reading it. If today's conversation connected with you, I think you would really enjoy my episode on anxiety, panic, and depression because it builds on today's discussion and helps you better understand what unremitted anxiety and depression actually look like from day to day. The fuller picture of what unmet needs feels like from the inside. And as always, stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy. See you next week. That's a wrap.
Be curious, stay kind, keep your mind nerdy.